game. How much did that cost? He shut down the airspace while regular travelers are stranded all over the country. The administration is funneling $40 billion to bail out Argentina. Republicans are literally subsidizing an entirely different country instead of keeping families in North Carolina or Minnesota or Texas or Indiana from going bankrupt if they face emergency hospital bills. And then giving your donors a fancy new ballroom at the White House while moms and dads can't afford to put food on the table. And speaking of putting food on the table, Trump illegally withheld food assistance from 42 million Americans, kids, veterans, seniors, working families. 2 federal court orders demanded that he pay out these benefits in full. But he would rather appeal to the highest court in the land to starve people out than to simply provide them with the food assistance that he is legally obligated to send to American families. Like, who does that? I mean, that's the Republican policy position. We'll give you your food if you let us take away your health care. I mean, who the hell thinks like that? And I know Republicans don't care. I know your donors have private doctors and insurance CEOs on speed dial. But could you at least pretend to do something about the 20 million Americans who are about to see their health care premiums soar? Or the 4 million people who could lose their coverage altogether? You don't even have a health care plan. You've been promising one for over a decade, and we've never seen it because it doesn't exist. Or maybe it's simply just hiding behind the missing appropriation bills.
This robotic puppy looks so real, it completely fooled my neighbor who's a veterinarian. I've been a grandmother for 15 years, and
extend this. So we're happy to join with you, but join with us too. If you want our votes, then, we want to help working people afford their health insurance. I yield back to Ms. Scanlon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. As we're convening here for the first time in months, our nation's healthcare system is buckling under the combined attacks of over almost $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid that were rammed through in the big ugly bill this summer, the White House's unilateral cuts to congressionally approved spending for NIH, medical research, including pediatric cancer, and now the Republican refusal to extend the ACA tax credits that help millions of Americans afford their health insurance. And they're already seeing these health insurance premiums go up. As Mr. McGovern said, this is not something that can wait because families are enrolling now for next year. And the Republicans have refused to address this issue all year, not just since the shutdown occurred. They've refused to address it at all. And none of this is an accident. It's all by choice. Just like it was a choice by President Trump to defund SNAP benefits this month for the first time in history. For more than 60 years, through recessions, natural disasters, and even previous shutdowns, and including previous shutdowns under this president, the federal government has never missed a SNAP payment until now. And why? Because President Trump and congressional Republicans will pick their billionaire buddies over American families every damn time. So once again, with this bill, they're choosing to let health care premiums skyrocket and causing families to lose coverage. Look, there have been 2 big tax provisions set to expire this year, and they've taken up a lot of attention. One was tax cuts for billionaires, and the second was tax credits for American families. This summer, Speaker Johnson called us back to D.C. when we were supposed to be home for the 4th of July weekend because it was an emergency to pass this big ugly bill which extended tax cuts for billionaires. But when it came time to extend tax credits for millions of Americans to help them afford health care, Speaker Johnson sent the House home for almost 2 months. And he won't commit to having a vote on those health care credits even after the government reopens. And again, that's a choice. For the last 42 days, while the Speaker has made clear that he has no interest in negotiating with Democrats to produce a bill capable of passing both houses. His job isn't just one house. It has to be able to pass both houses. While he's been refusing to do anything, the White House has been working overtime to use the shutdown to inflict as much pain as possible on the American people, particularly the most vulnerable of our neighbors. And again, that's a choice. The White House chose to try to fire more than 4,000 federal workers. That's a choice. The White House has threatened to withhold back pay to federal workers despite a 2019 bill that would prevent that. That's a choice. This White House chose to withhold SNAP benefits for 42 million Americans. It has pressured states not to advance those benefits. It has threatened grocers with penalties if they offer discounts to struggling SNAP beneficiaries. It has defied court orders to fund SNAP benefits, and it has appealed every one of those decisions every step of the way. Those are all choices, and again, never before has an administration blocked SNAP benefits. They have always tried to make sure those go out because the funding, in fact, is available. But this is what happens when governing becomes a game. And games are exactly what this Trump administration has played with SNAP and with the American people during the shutdown. Millions of families have spent a couple weeks struggling to feed their kids because of this White House's deliberate choices. The human cost of this Republican shutdown and this budget proposal are staggering. And behind every number are kids and veterans and seniors all across America who are going to pay for these choices. Ranking Member DeLauro, I had a couple questions for you. First of all, just to go back, the chair and Mr. Cole have said that this CR funds the federal government at the same levels as during the Biden administration. Does that mean that it fully funds the Consumer Protection Finance Bureau?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't go back to USAID.
Okay.
I can go chapter and verse on programs that are not there. $410 billion terminated, delayed.
Okay, so it doesn't fund the
No,
Department of
it's not.
Education?
No.
No, and it doesn't fund USAID?
You got it.
And it doesn't fund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting?
No way.
And it doesn't fund all those NIH research grants that have been cut?
Cut. Absolutely
Okay.
cut.
How about the
CDC,
the-
FDA.
Okay.
A whole 9
so
yards.
it is not the same bill?
No, and they have allowed for the president and for Russ Vought, an unelected bureaucrat, to really steal appropriated funds, and the CR does nothing about that. It gives them carte blanche to continue to do the same thing, which anybody who serves on an appropriations committee, quite frankly, needs to understand what role we have.
Well,
That is our role. And if the president wants to take it away from us, we need to fight like hell to make sure that they're done. Any president.
some would say that is something else that Congress could have been doing over the last 2 months, is protecting its right to
Right.
allocate funding. With respect to the SNAP benefits, does this CR that they're pushing through now, does that guarantee reimbursement to the states for funds they may have advanced?
No, it does not.
Okay, and the White House is fighting them about those funds.
That's
is
right.
that
Well, the White House is saying, take back the money that you've given to people. My state of Connecticut, when the court said, get it all out, we did it.
Right.
And now they're telling Governor Lamont that he has to go back and get that, go get that money. It's really
We saw the same
extraordinary.
thing in
Right.
Pennsylvania. Has
Right.
any administration before this ever
Never.
tried to prevent
No.
states from helping their?
No, it's happened in the past, and they
constituents?
have been reimbursed.
And they have been reimbursed. That's what I
It's the
thought.
first time that really food and has been used as a political weapon to deprive people of food, which is actually what's happened here.
Okay. Would the bill under consideration here, would it make SNAP payments mandatory in the future?
No, well, in the agriculture bill, this is, let me just take 1 second to explain. We passed the last go-round where we had money for SNAP, which is mandatory funding. We then do a contingency fund there, and the president, actually President Trump, he signed the bill into law in March, which provided for $3 billion for the contingency fund. Biden had done it, before, so there's $6 billion in a contingency for an emergency. So to say that the government had to open before those is really misinformation, and quite frankly, it's a lie. It's a lie. But in the bill, that's there, the agriculture bill, there is the money for SNAP, and yes, there's a $6 billion contingency fund.
Okay. Whenever we have a big bill like this, there are things that crop up in it, and one of the corrupt Easter eggs in the text of this bill is that it would allow certain senators to get payments from the federal government because a special prosecutor got a warrant that allowed the special prosecutor to investigate whether or not they participated in illegal efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Is that an appropriate use?
Well, first of all, it doesn't
appropriation
belong.
funds?
Speaking of things that don't belong in an appropriations bill, this certainly doesn't. But as I mentioned in my remarks, that this is really egregious. This was the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee saying, taking the word of the majority leader and putting this piece in the bill without anyone knowing about it. Leadership, I didn't know about it, and I will just say, my colleague, the chairman of the House Committee, didn't know about it. And the issue here is what the results of that is to allow, there's 7 or 8 people involved here that, and again, whether or not you believe what happened on January 6th, my God, how the heck can we just airdrop this stuff in the bill with no one knowing? But the price tag is potentially $8 million to pay off senators.
Okay. Look, I think the American people are smart enough to know who's fighting for them and who's fighting to line their own pockets, and those of billionaires. This is a bad deal. It fails to extend the ACA premium tax credits. It fails to guarantee a vote to address the Republican healthcare crisis. It even fails to guarantee that states are reimbursed for stepping up and providing SNAP benefits that have been illegally blocked by this administration. We need a budget that protects all Americans. That's what governing and leadership is supposed to be about, and that's what Americans deserve. So I can't in good faith support this deal to reopen the government because it doesn't meet those basic standards.
This is actually the biggest thing they've done to protect American seniors from the migrant crisis. Here's how it works.
All seniors across America now have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to get a concealed carry permit to protect themselves. The new controversial bill just passed, and seniors are flooding into this online program to claim their carry permit before it's too late. The rumor is that this bill has been getting too much backlash from the anti-2A folks, so the deadline is set to be announced this Friday. Luckily for now, if you're a U.S. citizen over 60 years old, you can still claim yours. It's completely free to check and only takes a minute. Just tap the blue Learn More button below, fill out the quick questionnaire, and you'll get yours in the mail in a week. But tap the link below now before it's too late.
Extra absorbent, even for your messiest meals. Vanity Fair napkins. Elevate every day.
And I would yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Roy.
Thank my friend from Virginia. Good to see everybody back. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member. A couple things. There's been a lot of conversations here about the federal employees. Real quick question for the Ranking Member. How many employees would depart through attrition, whether it was under Biden or President Trump?
Yeah, well, overall, we've got, that's almost, I think it's now over 220,000 federal employees that were either fired, some took the voluntary buyout, which maybe is what you're talking about with the attrition piece, but over 220,000 federal employees. That started in January. It has nothing to do with a government shutting down and people furloughed, et cetera. These people were gone in a nanosecond here.
So question to Mr. Chairman, what I was getting at here is, for whatever the numbers are, 220,000 or variants, Mr. Chairman, would you agree that a very large number of those go every year by attrition, say over 100,000? that there was in fact this deferred program, right, where they were basically offered the ability to leave, which represents another large chunk, I don't know, 60 or 70,000 or some significant number. And then there are questions then of additional employees, whether it's RIFs and so forth. And in the question of the RIFs from October, which are post-shutdown, post-Democrat caused shutdown, that those RIFs are reinstated under this legislation, correct? To the ones post-shutdown, is that correct?
That's correct.
And all of the prior folks, we're talking about the vast majority are those that are either left through attrition or those who went out under the deferred program. Is that true?
That's correct.
So I think a lot is being made of that, and I think then the question becomes, well, what is the right number of employees, right? I mean, so you've got people who are leaving under attrition. You have people who were then, they took a deferred program, they left, and the administration is trying to act. And then with respect to the RIFs and the decisions they were making in October, is that not the prioritization authority that the administration has during a shutdown to manage what they've got to on a cash flow basis to manage the functions of government?
I think that's correct. Let me add one thing, just an interesting wrinkle on this, and I just speak for my own district. We had people that wanted to take the buyout.
Right.
That they, literally, the government said, no, we're not going to, you're not going to be able to because you're mission critical. I mean, over 1,000 at Tinker Air Force Base wanted to take the buyout, but they were too important to keeping bombers in the air, tankers in the air, AWACS in the air. And the decision was made locally by the commanding general. No, we can't afford to lose you. I mean, you can leave, obviously. Any Americans can resign their position, but we can't give you a buyout. We really need you here. So, yeah, I mean, these numbers are a lot more complex than simple, which I think is the point you're making, than just stating a number and saying these people are all driven out. That's just not the case.
Well, and importantly, I think if you go from that to then the second area of concern, which we're talking about with respect to just the shutdown generally, true or false, on September 19th, we passed legislation that would have continued funding at current levels through November 20th.
That's true.
And on October 1st, the government entered shutdown because the Senate, by virtue of decisions by Senate Democrats, refused to take up and pass that bill, which undeniably would have continued to fund government at the current level beginning October 1 through November 20th. And instead, we entered a shutdown.
That's correct, although I always think it's important to note 55 senators, majority of the Senate,
Correct.
did actually vote to keep the government open.
And so important for the American people to understand that was a choice. And so I think when we talk about a shutdown, the question is why? Why? Why do it? Because here we are, and we've got legislation in front of us that Democrats have now supported in the Senate that return us effectively to the status quo ante, where we're going to have government funded out to another now date certain, now extended into January, because we're now into November, so we had to extend the date. We managed to move 3 appropriations bills through some degree of regular order, 3 bills in the House and the Senate. But by virtue of now passing this bill, we're going to restore where we would have been had we just done our work on October 1. So the question is, what was the last 45 days all about? Could it have been potentially the intervening political elections? Could that possibly have been the cynical motivations of the, not right now, I won't.
I was going
Could
to
it-
ask you a question.
Could it have possibly been the cynical motivations of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle? Just a rhetorical question that I'll leave floating out there to say, what were the reasons? We know why. Because our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have nothing to run on. And our colleagues on the other side of the aisle want something desperately to run on, so they're trying to manufacture a healthcare crisis that they created. That's the actual truth. And with respect to healthcare, the question that I would ask is this: should we be putting forward legislation that will continue to fund the insurance companies at the level they're currently getting, where 85% of their revenues are coming from the federal government? Because that's what's happening. Or that $35 billion are going to insurance companies last year to go to people that weren't even using their plans. Is that what we should be doing? Is that the healthcare system that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are saying that must be addressed by virtue of subsidies to insurance companies? Because President Trump had it right last week when he said, well, if you're going to do these subsidies, which is not how we would prefer to do business, then shouldn't it go to the American people to be able to go into a market and go be able to get the doctor of his or her choice, or get direct primary care, or be able to figure out how to take care of their family rather than call an insurance bureaucrat who's pocketing the money through a system that our colleagues designed and broke and for which not one single Republican ever voted, including the subsidies that no Republican voted for, that were created to be temporary by our colleagues' own voice. They were to be temporary during COVID. And we are now to extend the very subsidies that my colleagues are laying bare, the broken healthcare system that they created. I remember all too well in 2013 being on the floor of the Senate with Ted Cruz when we were raising the questions of what would happen when this system were implemented. Because the debate then was whether we should fund the implementation of a system that would end up bankrupting the average American family, as this system has done.
So you shut down,
What I'm talking about is the reason. I'm talking about the reason that one would go to the Senate floor and say maybe we shouldn't do the very thing that right now is causing the American people pain.
15 years.
Because we talk about the constituents who are having pain. Yeah. How about my constituent who died last year, who couldn't go to MD Anderson because Obamacare doesn't cover it? Is that coverage? Is that the kind of healthcare system that people deserve? While insurance companies are pocketing extraordinary profits, off the charts
15 years
profits.
and you haven't come up with a plan for health insurance.
And health insurance,
15 years.
health insurance executives are minting money.
Oh, God.
Minting money on the back of dollars coming from federal taxpayers and the federal government. And then our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have the temerity to come here and complain about the system they broke. That's what we're actually dealing with here.
It's about repeal of the Affordable Care Act. That's what this is all about.
Or the extent to which you've got
With no replacement.
Is it our time? The extent to which we are here because our colleagues know full well that this was a political exercise.
What happens if my dad starts Tai Chi tomorrow?
How old is your father?
He is 56.
Oh, perfect. By the end of September, you won't even recognize him.
But what if he hasn't worked out in years?
That's even better. Tai Chi was made specifically for beginner men, 40 plus.
Isn't the gym better?
After 50, the gym breaks you. Tai Chi heals your body and make you lose weight faster than in your 20s.
Does he need any equipment?
No, his body is enough. Just do it for 9 minutes a day and see your body get younger.
So how to start?
Click the link, get the app, and start tomorrow.
For the silent nights and the joy-filled mornings. For the company you're expecting and the last-minute RSVPs. For the perfectly planned traditions and the not-so-perfect moments. At Citi, we're ready for all the holidays bring. And for a limited time during our season of savings, enjoy up to 20% off plus 60 months special financing. Citi Furniture, designed for love.
To the chairman, we heard about SNAP. True or false, if we pass this legislation, will SNAP benefits proceed immediately?
Correct.
They could proceed.
So if we pass this legislation tomorrow,
Yeah,
SNAP funding will continue immediately.
correct.
While our friends at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue are trying to manage the funding of government, while our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have shut it down,
They're at the
correct?
Supreme Court
Correct.
trying to end that.
Mr. Chairman, one last question. So our colleague brought up the big, beautiful bill. When we created and set out the big, beautiful bill, and we put into it components to deal with border security and defense, where we had $150 billion for each in that legislation, was that not beneficial for the executive branch to manage through such a moment as this, where our colleagues have shut down the government, and they've now had additional flexibility with respect to dollars. Not all, it's not appropriations, I realize that, but they had additional flexibility to manage through it so that we could continue to secure the border and secure to defend the nation.
I wouldn't presume to speak for the administration, but that would be my opinion, that has given them the ability to make sure that we've been able to pay our troops twice, which would not have happened had they not had that flexibility and the president not made some tough decisions. So, yeah, I point out, I know everybody here is concerned about SNAP and WIC, and the president directed additional resources into those programs to the extent that he could during a government shutdown. So, I mean, the president's done everything he can to mitigate, I think, what our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have done. They haven't been able to do it in the House. I do stress this is a Senate deal. It's been the minority position in both chambers. But I appreciate what the administration's done to try and make sure the people that needed help got it, the people that deserved to get paid did get paid insofar as they could do it. But, yeah, again, they can't do it indefinitely, and they can't do it for everyone.
Mr. Roy?
I think, Chairman, one last point that I want for the record. The Obamacare 2026 premiums, there's a great report that puts out that shows that only 3.3% of those premiums are affected at all by the COVID credits, that 97% of the premiums in 2026 will continue to flow as normal, and I'd like to insert that in the record. Thank you.
Mr.
Yield
Roy?
back.
Mr. Roy?
Mr. Neguse, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you. I just have to start. Chairman Cole, I have a number of probing questions, but before I ask you some questions, I have to address some of the comments made by the gentleman from Texas. I'm just going to read a quote. And I do this because I actually don't think I could find a quote like this from Chairman Cole. So in some respects, although I disagree with much of his testimony, but he certainly has more clean hands than some of my other colleagues. Quote, "Let's not fund a government that's going to be exacting tyranny over our American brothers and sisters." Full length of the interview is available here, and some key quotes are below. This is from the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Roy's website, November of 2021. Should any Republican vote to fund an executive branch? In other words, should Article 1 Congress, which has the power of the purse as the founders gave us, should we give any dollars to the executive branch for President Biden to issue unconstitutional and unlawful mandates that are causing people to have to choose between their livelihoods and getting a vaccine which they don't want? Let's stand united. Let's not do what these 13 Republicans did last Friday and go side with Nancy Pelosi. Let's not fund a government that's going to be exacting tyranny over our American brothers and sisters. This is from Mr. Roy. Spare me. Hold on. No, Mr. Roy, it's my time. It's my time. You certainly made that clear with the chairwoman. Spare us. Mr. Cole, perhaps, I think, as I said, can have some clean hands to talk to us about this particular set of circumstances we find ourselves in. You cannot. There might be other colleagues of yours, I think, who might share Mr. Cole's worldview, but I don't know. I thought I've heard everything in Congress, but to hear my colleague from Texas, his indignation about the government shutdown as he instigated and tried to instigate shutdown after shutdown, just 3 years ago, 4 years ago. This isn't distant memory. In any event, I digress. Mr. Cole, how many days has the House of Representatives been in session since August 3rd?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
12 days sound about right?
Something like that.
I can represent to you that the House, since August 3rd, has been in session for a total of 12 days.
When people search for you online, what do they find? Reputation Defender helps get rid of or bury negative search results so you can make the best first impression. Search your name today and let Reputation Defender help you rise to the top.
Man over 60 who haven't exercised in years. On Monday, we start Printable Chair Yoga Workout. Printable Chair Yoga Workout to go from extra, extra large to medium. Just 10 minutes a day to restore energy, metabolism, and burn that stubborn fat. In 1 week, you'll see your energy. In 2 weeks, you'll feel less stressed. In 3 weeks, you'll be the whole new you. Here is the personalized plan of short, printable chair yoga, tailored for beginners over 50. Beginner-friendly and requires no equipment. You can work out anytime, anywhere. Just open the app and follow along.
I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Bannon. I suspect you are. Yes?
Never met him.
Never met him. You know of him.
If you read the newspapers, you know of him.
Yeah, I don't. It's not a trick question. You know Steve Bannon exists.
No,
I don't know.
I-
It's not right. So,
No,
so
sir, I know
there was
who
a,
he is.
Okay,
He's
there
a
was a
political
report
figure.
recently where Steve Bannon compared the U.S. Congress under Speaker Johnson to the Duma, allegedly. You think that's an apt comparison?
No, I don't.
No. Would it surprise you to know that the Duma has been in session longer this fall than the United States House of Representatives?
I don't know that the Duma sessions make very much difference.
Well, I'm not so sure they make much difference here, given the way in which Republicans are capitulating to every demand that President Trump makes. I think it is shameful, that the House has been in session for 12 days since August 3rd. 54 days out of session. You cannot possibly, Chairman, you've been in Congress for some time. You can't possibly defend a 54-day recess, the second longest recess in the modern history of the Congress. You would defend
you should
that?
probably direct that sentiment toward the United States Senate.
The Senate decides when the House is in session?
No, if you'll let me finish my
Well,
my
no,
point.
because I don't.
My point is, we sent a bill in plenty of time over to the Senate to keep the government open functioning. All these other issues you're concerned about could be addressed, could be debated.
Why not pass these
decide
bills?
Whatever.
Why
But-
not consider the bills on the floor?
But
The approach
we're
bills.
waiting for the Senate to get back.
Why wait?
The Senate has now finally acted.
Okay, Mr. Cole,
Wasn't to the Republicans that
I
kept it from
understand
acting.
that. I understand. You
Okay,
said that
that's
in
my
response
concern.
to Mr. McGovern. My question is, and this was what I think he was trying to glean from both you and the ranking member, there are plenty of appropriation bills that were passed out of committee. The House could have met the last week of September, any week in October, last week, yesterday, any time over the last 54 days. The House could be convened to consider these appropriation bills. John Thune doesn't get to decide when the House of Representatives is in session. Mike Johnson does. And I'm trying to understand from you why you've decided to take this position.
I
that
don't make
essentially,
these
I'll
decisions.
finish and then I'll let you answer.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Why you've
I thought
taken
you
this
had.
position that the House should effectively stay out of session. I mean, I guess this is your position, that if the government is shut down, the House of Representatives should not convene. Is that your position?
If we can open it by ourselves, which we had done.
Sure.
We had passed legislation, clean legislation, to keep the government open.
You've said that.
It went to the United States Senate, and you wait
And
until they send you something back.
And do nothing else. That's
What?
my point. Do you know how many bills have passed out of committee this year that are sitting downstairs at the floor, the desk in the House? 150. 150 bills that have passed. Many of your colleagues here on the Republican side of the aisle, they have passed bills out of committee, along with bills that I've passed on veterans' health care, on issues of foreign policy, you name it. The House has refused to consider any of those for the last 54 days. I'm trying to understand why. Why not just say to the Speaker in October, you know what?
Call us back.
Speaker Johnson, it's time to bring the House back. We'll wait. You know, the Senate, you're right. The Senate's considering the bills that we sent them. They're considering the CR that you mentioned, right? That you've made clear, you passed it. I get it. But while we're waiting, maybe we ought to consider other matters, including the appropriation bills that you are so proud of that you moved out of your committee.
I am proud of them. I would be much happier if the Senate would just open the government
But you don't
and
have
we
to
could
wait
proceed.
for them. I
Actually,
don't understand.
look,
I mean, honestly, I think I've got an answer to that question. I think you've answered it. And I
Okay.
think the answer is effectively that John Thune is in charge of the House calendar from here on out. That basically the position is, I mean, Mike Johnson has given his gavel. I thought he gave, I didn't ask a question, Mr. Cole.
I'm sorry.
not, so
I thought you
I
did.
thought Mr. Speaker Johnson had given his gavel to the president. But it appears as though, at least based on your answers, that he gave it to Senator Thune. Because there is no excuse for the Speaker's decision to keep us out of session for 54 days. And by the way, this is
no excuse for the government to be shut down.
Mr.
You
Cole,
and your colleagues
that wasn't a
voted for that
question. I'll ask you.
repeatedly.
I'm happy to ask you a question. Because it seems like you are very comfortable with the House being out of session for extended periods of time. Is that a fair?
I am comfortable doing my job, and I've been here quite a bit, my friend.
I understand.
And working on these issues, quite frankly. But we didn't vote to shut down the government in the House.
Okay, you mentioned you've been here a long
And to be
time.
fair, my Senate colleagues didn't vote to shut down the government, and
Got
a
it.
majority of the
Got it.
United States
You've
Senate,
made that
including
position clear.
members from your party.
You've made your
did not
position
vote.
clear, Mr.
So
Cole.
I think the people that shut down the government
You said
can take
you've made your
responsibility
position
for
clear.
shutting down
As
the
you
government.
said, you've been here a lot longer than I have.
Why wait? Beat the rush and save big. Hudson's pre-Black Friday blowout is bursting with holiday deals. Up to 50% off store-wide, plus up to 16 months interest-free financing. Celebrate the season and save only at Hudson's Furniture and Mattress.
Change to the Monkey and save. Get a standard oil change for just $29.99 or take $25 off a premium oil change. With upgraded centers and our friendly certified technicians, you'll drive away worry-free. Change to Grease Monkey. Done fast, done right.
And that's certainly true. I haven't been here for long. I found an article. This is from 2007. You've been in Congress for some time. The headline, Cole, quote, "Now is not the time for a vacation," end quote. This is when Democrats had the majority. In 2007, Congress must work through Memorial Day recess to produce a clean funding bill. U.S. Congressman Tom Cole today joined nearly every member of the Republican conference in sending a letter to then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, calling her to keep the House in session until Congress sends then President Bush a clean funding bill that he will sign into law. This was effectively, I'll just say, the letter was sent to Speaker Pelosi 8 days before Congress is scheduled to adjourn for the Memorial Day recess. Legislative business is not scheduled to resume until June 5th. I mean, you all were clamoring, demanding that the Speaker reconvene the House and not take a 10-day recess. And now what? We're in week 8 and we're finally here? And you won't say a word of criticism about the Speaker's strategy in keeping all of us?
I reserve my criticism for the people that shut down the government of the United States.
I think it is
kept it
rich.
shut down for 40-odd days.
I think
and
it
made
is-
sure SNAP recipients didn't get it. It made
think
sure
it's
people
rich.
didn't get paid. That's
Mr.
who
Chairman,
I'll
I think it's
criticize.
rich. Again, I would just simply say that if the shoe were on the other foot, I don't think, honestly, I don't think you would hesitate, to call the Speaker's actions disgraceful, to keep us out of session for 54
No,
days. But in
not
any
quite.
event, that's fine. Let's talk about the last 54 days. So the Speaker, he said something that was fascinating. I thought it was a really interesting quote. If I can find it. Here we go. Yeah, that was interesting. So the quote is, "House Republicans are doing some of the most meaningful work of their careers. They are in their districts. I don't want to pull them away from that." You agree with the Speaker's comments?
I don't speak for the Speaker, but I don't disagree with him. Look, we're waiting for the
No,
Senate
that's
to
not the
do its
question.
job.
That's not the question.
No,
You answered it. You answered it.
I don't
Okay, so Chairman,
disagree with the Speaker.
it sounds like you're saying that you agree that with the Speaker. Republican members were doing some of the most, quote, meaningful work of their careers during that 54 days. I assume you were here in Washington and back in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Right? Did you have any in-person town halls?
No.
None. 54 days?
Did several teletown halls.
Teletown halls. But you've done in-person town halls before. I know that to be true.
Mhm.
Why not? 54 days is a long time. Not one town hall?
No.
Did you visit any of the federal facilities?
Oh, I visited
in your
federal
district?
facilities. I've done multiple meetings with